Welcome to the Deep Dive by 5W Media.
Great to be diving in.
Today we're venturing into the spine-chilling realm of Alaskan ghost stories and eerie legends, a deep dive tailored just for you.
Yeah, Alaska's got some really good ones. It feels like the perfect setting, doesn't it?
It really does. We've gathered a fascinating collection of, first-hand accounts, historical articles, and expert insights.
Right, stuff from authors like Bjorn Dial, Robin Barefield, articles from Anchorage Daily News, even Reddit threads.
Exactly, covering everything from the Inside Passage to Anchorage and, beyond.
So our mission today is basically to explore these spooky narratives.
Yeah, explore them, maybe understand why they stick around, and perhaps uncover what they tell us about the last frontier itself.
Okay, where do we even begin to unpack this?
Well, I think you have to start with the atmosphere, the place itself.
Okay.
Bjorn Dial, who wrote Haunted Inside Passage, he describes Southeast Alaska as, menacing.
Menacing, wow.
Yeah, not just like nature being indifferent. He says it's like it wants to eat you. Yikes. Okay, maybe not literally, but I get the feeling.
Totally. He talks about the darkness, the dreariness, the constant storms. It's claustrophobic, he says, even though it's vast.
Because the wilderness is just right there.
Yeah.
Inescapable.
Exactly. And think about the history. Shipwrecks, plane crashes, people just vanishing. It's fertile ground for ghost stories.
Absolutely. It sets the stage perfectly.
Yeah.
But it's not just about, spooky landscapes. Deal makes an interesting point.
About what scares us.
Yeah. He says his book isn't just about ghosts in the traditional sense, but the things that haunt us, that scare us.
Right. And how we sometimes, romanticize the fictional fears.
While ignoring real dangers. Yeah. He finds it weird there aren't ghost stories about, say, cancer or car crashes, common things.
But plenty about bear attacks, which are statistically rarer.
So why do certain things scare us? And why do we sort of celebrate those fears and stories?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like we're drawn to the dramatic, the break from the norm.
Which leads us right into some of these specific Alaskan tales. Robin Barefield talks about one near Chugiak, Badarka Road.
Oh, yeah, that one's grim. Really tragic.
Tell us about it.
It's a story about a father and daughter out collecting firewood. A tree falls, kills the daughter instantly. Horrible.
Oh, terrible.
And the father, he reportedly just stayed there holding her and died of hypothermia.
Oh, my God.
So now people claim they see, a specter. A man holding a bloody child on this road, which isn't even really mapped.
And whispers on the wind. That's heavy. More sad than scary, almost.
It is. It speaks to that deep sorrow. And then also near Chugiak, you've got the Birchwood Saloon.
Okay, a saloon. Classic haunting spot. What happens there?
The usual suspects, kind of. Disembodied voices, objects moving. Patrons have seen apparitions. And the jukebox apparently plays by itself sometimes.
Okay, the jukebox thing is always a bit creepy. Any idea who it might be?
Well, some folks think it might be the ghost of a young man who was electrocuted nearby years ago. An echo of that event, maybe.
It's like these intense moments leave something behind, an imprint.
Seems that way. And speaking of places with intense pasts, how about the old Kennecott Copper Mines Railroad?
In Wrangell, St. Elias, right. Huge national park. That place has a reputation.
A big one. That railroad, built back in the early 1900s, conditions were brutal, dangerous work.
Lots of accidents, I bet. And probably not all reported back then.
Exactly. Lots of death likely associated with it. And even though the mines closed decades ago and the railroad's now the McCarthy Road...
people still see things.
Yeah. Travelers report seeing tombstones near the road, like grave markers. And then they look again, and nothing. They vanish.
Whoa. Okay, that's unsettling. Fleeting glimpses.
But the really wild part is the state housing project they tried to build near there.
What happened with that?
It got canceled. The construction workers just refused to work there anymore.
Why? What did they experience?
They reported seeing phantoms, hearing voices, miners, even children, tools disappearing. Just a general feeling of unease, like they weren't wanted there.
Enough to halt a whole project. That's significant.
It really is.
Yeah.
Suggests the area is considered heavily haunted. Don't try to resettle here.
The land remembering, like you said. Okay, let's shift to haunted buildings. Hotels seem to pop up a lot. The Van Gilder in Seward.
Classic. Built in 1916. So it's got history and tragedy.
Fanny Bain, right? Room 12.
Yeah. Murdered by her husband back in 1950. A really brutal story. So it's no surprise people think her spirit might linger.
What do they report seeing?
Guests and staff talk about seeing a mysterious lady, sometimes walking the halls, sometimes just looking out the windows.
A restless spirit may be tied to that trauma. Makes sense.
But then there's another sighting, too, which is interesting.
Oh, what's that?
A high school student years ago was collecting donations. Saw a woman in, like, older clothes, ruffled blouse, long skirt,
It's
boots.
period clothing.
Yeah. And then she just vanished. Poof.
So maybe not just Fanny. It could be multiple spirits.
Exactly. That's what makes it intriguing. Layers of history, different energies, maybe.
Older buildings can be like that. Accumulating stories over time. Okay, moving up to Anchorage. Schools seem to be another hot spot. West High.
West High's got the famous Lady in White.
In the auditorium, I feel like I've heard of this one.
Yeah, it's a long-standing legend. Decades of sightings. And the description is pretty consistent. Female figure, dressed in white, hard to get a good look at, elusive.
That's glimpses.
Mostly. People see her in the seats, running in the halls, backstage. A student stage manager saw someone go into an off-limits area and just disappear.
Not just students seeing things, though.
No, apparently 2 assistant principals and a security guard saw a strange white flash in a corridor once.
Okay, so multiple credible witnesses over the years.
Right. Plus you get the other stuff, footsteps when no one's there, doors slamming, lights going on and off. Typical haunting signs.
And wasn't there something about a janitor, too?
Yeah, some people report seeing the ghost of a long-dead janitor still sweeping the lobby.
And a student seeing a strange man in a basement storage room. That used to be a rifle range.
Right, saw him glaring at her. Then he vanished.
Yeah.
Creepy. It all adds up to this feeling that the school isn't quite empty.
It becomes part of the school's lore, passed down. Like Ketchikan High School, too. They have one called Bucci.
Yeah, Bucci. Supposedly the ghost of a student who died in a fall from the theater catwalk way back in 1946.
And they say his presence is getting stronger.
That's the story. More people reporting hearing screams or cries or actually seeing him up on the catwalk, as if the legend feeds the energy, maybe.
Or maybe more people are just paying attention now. Interesting. What about Kotzebue, the Northwest Arctic Heritage Center?
That one's a bit different. It's the legend of a young boy named Alex.
Who drowned.
Yeah, supposedly drowned while trying to get a basketball from under the building. So the story goes, his spirit is trapped in the auditorium.
And there's that interactive part.
Right. They say if you bring a ball into the auditorium and call his name, Alex, you might hear a faint bouncing sound.
Ooh, that's clever. Makes the story very immediate, very personal for anyone who tries it.
Definitely gives it an extra layer of creepiness.
Okay, back to Anchorage and another auditorium. The Wendy Williamson at UAA. This place sounds like a major paranormal hub.
Oh, it really does. Even the building itself is weird.
How so?
The layout is strange. Apparently, they changed plans mid-construction. So you have, like, doors that open onto solid walls, an unused elevator shaft, a spotlight room that doesn't align properly.
That's odd, almost like the building itself is confused.
Kind of feels that way. And the stories.
Yeah.
There were loads of them. Multiple spirits, people say.
Including the namesake, Wendy Williamson himself.
Yeah. John Wendell, Wendy Williamson, a music professor.
Yeah.
His portrait kept falling off the wall, apparently.
What else happens there?
All sorts. Piano music playing on its own classic ghost stuff. Props flying off tables during rehearsals. Lights exploding. Unexplained shadows, footsteps.
Okay, that's quite a list. Anything more interactive?
Yeah, apparently some women, particularly brunettes, have reported being forcefully pushed.
Pushed? Where?
Trying to leave the handicap bathroom or going down the lobby stairs, that's more aggressive.
Definitely. Did anyone ever try to figure out who or what is there?
A psychic visited once, apparently.
Yeah.
Sensed 5 different entities.
5. Wow. Who are they supposed to be?
A girl killed in a car accident, a teenage boy, a young woman, and 2 men, one described as kind, the other violent.
A violent one. Maybe that explains the pushing.
Could be. And there's another lady in white story here, too. A student saw a figure in a white dress floating above the stage during a play. No special effects involved.
Floating. Okay, that elevates the creep factor. So many stories in one place.
It really seems to be a focal point.
What about places that aren't necessarily haunted by, like, specific ghosts, but just feel off? Site Summit.
Ah, yeah, the old Nike missile site near Eagle River, Mount Gordon Lyon.
Cold War stuff. Abandoned bunkers.
Exactly. It was built in the late 50s, early 60s, meant to defend against Soviet bombers. Thankfully, never had to be used for real.
But the emptiness, the purpose it had, it probably feels eerie.
Totally. It's spooky just thinking about the what-ifs and the harsh conditions the soldiers endured up there. Maybe it left a different kind of echo. Ghosts of a war that never happened, perhaps.
A haunting of potential, almost. That makes sense. And then there's Whittier, the whole town.
Yeah, Whittier's unique. Getting there through that long, single-lane tunnel, it already feels kind of isolated, cut off.
And the buildings there, that massive abandoned one.
The Buckner Building. Huge concrete structure. Former military barracks from the Cold War era. It's officially off limits, but people explore it.
And find it spooky.
Definitely. Reports of strange noises could be animals or wind, but still unsettling. Running water somewhere inside. And graffiti like Red Drum doesn't help the vibe.
Yeah, borrowing from The Shining adds to it. But what about where people actually live? The Baggage Towers.
BTI, yeah. Where almost everyone in Whittier lives. Even there you get stories.
Like what? Standard bumps in the night?
Pretty much. Phantom noises, whistling, heavy footsteps heard in the corridors. There's even a local anecdote about the hungry ghost in the city manager's kitchen.
A hungry ghost. Okay, that's a bit more whimsical.
Yeah, it shows how these things can become just part of the local color, part of living there.
Right. Okay, back to Anchorage proper. The historic Anchorage Hotel, another old one, built in 1916.
Still operating, the annex part. And very well known for its non-paying guests.
They even have a ghost log.
Yep. Guests are invited to write down their experiences, and there are plenty.
Who's supposed to be haunting it?
Several spirits, apparently. The most famous is probably the jilted bride who supposedly hung herself after being left at the altar.
A classic tragic tale.
Very classic. But also playful children. People report hearing footsteps, giggling. One guest saw a small child smiling at them from a closet.
Ooh, creepy kid ghosts are always unsettling.
And then there's Anchorage's first police chief, Jack Sturgis.
What's his story?
He was murdered nearby in 1921, shot with his own gun. The murder was never solved.
Unsolved murder. Another reason for a spirit to linger, maybe.
Possibly. A psychic who visited claimed there were almost 36 spirits in the hotel.
36. Wow. That's a crowded afterlife.
Apparently so. Tapping on doors, the kids' laughter. It's got a lot going on.
Okay, another Anchorage hotel, the Captain Cook. Newer, built in 65, but still has stories.
It does. Specifically, the ladies' restroom off the lobby.
A haunted bathroom. Okay, tell me more.
The story is tied to a young woman who died by suicide there, supposedly on the opening night of the hotel's second tower in 1972.
Oh, wow. What do people experience?
Guests have reported seeing a woman in a white dress looking stressed, but also physical phenomena. Faucets turning on and off, lights flickering.
Standard stuff, but unnerving in a bathroom.
Gets weirder. People fainting, stall doors opening and closing violently.
Violently?
Yeah. And the big one is the last stall on the left. People reported feeling a ghostly hand grab their ankle.
Grab their ankle, no thank you.
Right. Apparently that specific stall is kept bolted shut now.
I don't blame him. Okay, moving out to Girdwood. Alaska Ski Resort. Even ski resorts aren't safe.
Seems not. Tragic accidents happen in places like that, and sometimes stories follow.
Any specific spirits mentioned?
Well, some speculate about the spirit of John Nicoletta, an extreme skier from Colorado who died during competition there in 2008.
Possible.
But there's a more specific story tied to room 721.
Room 721, what's the deal there?
Believed to be haunted by a stockbroker who died by suicide in that room, supposedly about 23 years ago.
And guests report?
Seeing his figure. And the familiar flickering lights, TVs turning off, doors opening or closing, faucets running. The usual signs of a presence.
It's interesting how often those specific phenomena repeat across different locations.
It is. Maybe it's the easiest way for whatever it is to interact. Or maybe it's just what we notice.
Good point. What about private residences? The Augusta Seabird House in Anchorage.
Yeah, built in the early 1920s by a Swedish immigrant who worked on the railroad. Not a hotel, but visitors have reported things.
Like what?
Disembodied voices, cold spots, feeling pushed, and apparitions.
Who do they see?
A man, believed to be Augustus himself, pacing upstairs. And a woman in white, maybe his wife Christina or daughter Helen, both of whom also faced tragedy, seen in the parlor and main bedroom.
A whole family haunting, potentially?
Yeah.
Sad.
Very sad. Ties into that idea of spirits connected to their home.
Okay, let's talk about Ship Creek. That area is foundational to Anchorage, right?
Absolutely, where the city really started. But it's also seen some darkness. Brutal murders have happened there.
Is there a specific ghost story associated with it?
There's the legend of Marie, a native Alaskan woman murdered there in 1987. Her spirit is sometimes said to protect homeless native people in the area. Other times she's heard crying out for help.
Protecting or crying out reflects the tragedy and maybe a desire for justice.
Yeah. And other murders happened in the creek later, in 98 and 2016. Human remains were even found nearby just this year, in 2024. So there's a lot of potential for residual energy there.
A lot of sorrow concentrated in one area. Makes sense it would feel uneasy, especially after dark.
Definitely. It carries that weight.
Even seemingly modern places aren't immune. Diamond Center Mall.
Yeah, this one's interesting. Built over what's believed to be a forgotten Native American gravesite. They actually found human remains during construction.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a recipe for unease right there.
And sure enough, stories emerged. Lone shoppers reporting seeing apparitions. People in traditional Native American clothing, seen in bathrooms, hallways, just brief glimpses.
And isn't there something about wolves?
Yeah, rumors of transparent wolves roaming the mall, which some people connect to the Native Alaskan legend of the Keelut.
What's the Keelut?
An evil spirit sometimes described as looking like a hairless dog. Whether it's connected or not, the idea of spectral wolves in a mall is striking.
Definitely striking. A strange mix of ancient legend and modern consumerism.
It really is.
Okay.
Then there's the Inlet Tower Hotel and Suites. Used to be apartments, right? Alaska's first high-rise.
Built in the early 50s. So who haunts that one?
2 main spectral residents reported. A little girl. Heard playing on the ground floor. Sometimes seen roaming the halls. People report hearing laughter.
Okay, another potentially creepy child ghost. And the other...
A male apparition. Often seen in the elevator, just riding up and down.
Just riding the elevator.
Yeah. Apparently, if you try to approach him, he vanishes.
An elevator ghost. That's a new one.
Each place has its own flavor, right?
It seems so. Okay, we can't talk about Alaskan mysteries without mentioning the Triangle.
Ah, the Alaska Triangle, yes. That vast region between Utkukvik, Juneau, and Anchorage.
Where something like 20,000 people have supposedly disappeared over the years.
The numbers vary, but yeah, a huge number of disappearances. Now, a lot of that is likely due to the incredibly challenging terrain, weather, vast wilderness.
Sure, logical explanations exist for many, but not all.
Not all. There's some really strange cases, especially unexplained aircraft disappearances. Like Hale Boggs Sr.'s flight in 1972 vanished without a trace.
And that Japanese plane in '86 that encountered something weird.
Yeah, huge unidentified aircraft.
Yeah.
So theories range from, natural causes and pilot error to, well, stranger things, UFOs, energy vortexes.
It definitely captures the imagination because it's so vast and parts are so remote.
Exactly. The unknown is always fertile ground for speculation.
Okay, bringing it back to Anchorage one more time. Snow City Cafe, popular brunch spot.
Yep. But located where Anchorage's first travel agency used to be.
And the connection is?
The travel agency owner, Muriel Feel, was killed by a car bomb back in 1976. Right there.
A car bomb. Was it solved?
Never officially solved, though her ex-husband was a suspect. So another violent, unresolved death.
And now she haunts the cafe.
Her ghost is believed to be there, yeah. But described as playful.
Playful? How so?
Turning lights and faucets on and off. One employee heard laughter and a cabinet closing when they were completely alone in the building.
So, not malicious, just making her presence known.
Seems like it. Like she's still around, maybe tied to the location of her business and death.
Interesting. Okay, let's head north, or rather southeast, for a really classic one. Skagway. The Golden North Hotel. Scary Mary.
Ah, Mary. Yes, probably one of the most famous Alaskan ghost stories.
Tell us the legend. Gold Rush era.
Exactly. Mary came to Skagway, engaged to a prospector, supposedly named Klondike Ike. He went off to find gold.
Did he strike it rich?
He never came back, just disappeared into the wilderness, presumably.
Oh, no. Poor Mary.
Yeah. The story goes she locked herself in their hotel room, room 23 usually, put on her wedding dress, and just waited. And eventually died there, of heartbreak, presumably.
That's incredibly sad. So now she haunts the hotel.
That's the legend. Guests have reported seeing her pale figure looking out windows, feeling sudden cold spots in her room.
Anything more direct?
Oh, yeah. Some guests claim to have woken up in the middle of the night.
Yes.
To find her apparition standing over their bed, looking for Ike.
Okay, that would be terrifying, waking up to a ghost bride.
Absolutely. It's a powerful, enduring image. Love, loss, waiting forever. Classic ghost story elements.
Definitely. Now, shifting gears a bit. Besides traditional ghosts, Alaska has other legends, right? Indigenous stories.
Oh, absolutely. A whole rich tapestry of folklore. We saw some mentions on Reddit about stories passed down regarding little people.
Little people? Like fairies or
Yeah.
something else.
Different tribes have different names and stories, but yeah, small, human-like beings, sometimes called Irsenrot in the YK Delta region.
What were they like in the stories?
Sometimes they traded with villages, sometimes they were mischievous or even dangerous. There were warnings, keep your animals away, don't follow them.
Why keep animals away?
One story tells of a dog killing one of the little people. After that, they stopped interacting with the village, and the village had bad luck. So, a sense of needing to respect them.
And they could be dangerous.
Other stories mention them stealing food, messing with your sense of direction, leading you astray in the wilderness. You had to be careful.
So not just cute little elves. More complex, potentially hazardous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Callisto Corporation even published a book about them. It shows there's this whole other layer of belief about unseen beings in the landscape, beyond just ghosts of the dead.
Fascinating. And speaking of Reddit, people shared a lot of personal experiences too, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. Lots of spooky anecdotes from all over the state.
What were some highlights? UAF in Fairbanks seems active.
Definitely. A former janitor talked about strange things in one of the theater's noises, doors opening and closing, seeing apparitions. A new janitor apparently quit after seeing a figure drift across the stage.
And they later found out someone had died there.
Hang themselves, yeah.
Yeah.
Another person mentioned a locked door just opening by itself at UAF.
Creepy. What else?
Someone mentioned a haunted house in Spenard, Anchorage, seeing a green, almost glowing shape interacting with a teddy bear.
Glowing green shape. Okay, that's unusual.
Experiences back at the historic Anchorage Hotel unlocked doors, seeing a child peering over the bed, matching the known legends.
Uh-huh.
Stories of the Kushtaka down in southeast Alaska.
What's the Kushtaka again? Shapeshifter.
Yeah, a shape-shifting otterman creature said to lure people to their deaths. More folklore than ghost story, but definitely spooky.
Yeah, definitely. Any other locations mentioned?
Let's see. A creepy vibe at the National Guard Armory in Sitka, where someone had died. Nightmares and weird feelings in a house near a demolished haunted hotel in Fairbanks. The 5th floor of Alaska Regional Hospital. The Northward Building in downtown Fairbanks.
Lots of places seem to have something going on.
Totally. Someone mentioned a Bigfoot-like creature down on the southern Kenai Peninsula. The abandoned town of Portlock, also linked to Bigfoot sightings and general strangeness.
Portlock comes up a lot in abandoned, spooky Alaska discussions.
It does. Also, the basement of the pioneer's home in Sitka described as very haunted shadow figures. Creepy stuff at Skyline near Eagle River, hearing footsteps on a non-existent second floor of a Brent cabin, seeing a dark figure.
Wow. Pioneer Park in Fairbanks, too. Seeing faces in the old riverboat.
Yeah, faces in the Nenana riverboat windows, things moving in the round building there.
Yeah.
Someone had a really scary ATV ride at night near Petersville. Stumbled upon a grave of an unseen presence near a trailer.
Petersville. That's remote. Easy to feel spooked out there.
For sure. Old Seward hotel stories,
Yeah.
TV turning on, ghosts. That feeling of unease at Ship Creek after dark, which we talked about.
And that really weird one. Someone hearing their name called.
Oh, yeah, on a trail on the Kenai Peninsula.
Yeah.
A sing-songy voice calling their name, then ravens showing up that seem to laugh. It's deeply unsettling.
That taps into something primal, doesn't it? Being called by something unseen in the woods.
Absolutely. And back to the Wendy Williamson, someone mentioned, sheet music raining down on the orchestra during rehearsal when no one was above them.
Sheet music raining down. Okay, maybe Wendy Williamson just wanted to conduct.
Could be. Or just another unexplained event in a building full of them. Plus, the piano playing by itself, faucets turning on. It reinforces those earlier stories.
It really does. What a collection of tales.
From tragic history to mischievous spirits to truly unsettling folklore, Alaska's got it all.
Alaska's vast and wild landscapes, coupled with its unique history and cultural tapestry, certainly provide a rich backdrop for these enduring tales of the supernatural.
Definitely. It's the perfect storm, you could say.
From haunted hotels and theaters to ghostly miners and, those elusive little people, these stories offer a glimpse into the anxieties, tragedies, and enduring mysteries of the last frontier.
And it's that blend, isn't it? Indigenous beliefs, the hardships of the pioneers, modern strangeness. It all mixes together.
Yeah, it creates a unique flavor to Alaskan ghost stories. They feel both scary and somehow deeply human. We hope this deep dive into Alaska's spooky side has given you some intriguing insights and perhaps a few goosebumps.
It's fascinating how these stories persist and what they might reflect about our relationship with the unknown, with history, with that incredible landscape.
Maybe think about what Bjorn Dial said. Often the fictions we tell ourselves are equally as vital as the truths we ignore. What truths might these Alaskan stories be hinting at? Something to ponder.
Definitely something to think about long after the deep dive is over.
If you like what you are hearing from us, please take a moment to subscribe so you always know when a new episode is released.
Yeah, hit that subscribe button.
Also, please take a moment to like, share, and leave a comment. It really means so much to us.
It absolutely does. Let us know what you think.
What types of stories do you want to hear next? Thanks for tuning in.